Good evening. Today is March 31st. S&P 500 finally made new intraday highs today, but sold off 20 points at the end of the day.
But it was still an all-time high.
It was all-time high, and Nasdaq was up 1.6%.
Yes.
That's after you told us you have purchased Nasdaq yesterday.
Well, it was a tremendously woke day, and I think the FANGs had their day. They canceled Lara Trump. Tesla was way up, and it was a great day for progressivism and the FANGs. And there were a lot of lockdowns in the news, and that's very, very good for the Nasdaq, because they're the only ones that can make money if everything is locked down.
Tesla was up 5% today.
Wow.
Right, was way overperforming. Even the Russell 2000 was only up 1%. So like you said, there were lots of woke news. Just a quick summary of the news today. New York Governor Cuomo signed a recreational marijuana bill. So I guess smoking weed trumps assaulting women there. But Treasury Secretary Yellen said that climate change poses a, quote, tremendous risk to our country's stability. So apparently now Fed's mandate is also to fix climate change, whichever way we want to dial up the temperature, I wonder. And
can I interject for 1 second? When I was in New York to have some mutton on Friday, and it was the day after marijuana was legalized, and I passed a weed store with 30 people, at least 30 people, smoking weed outside, and 50 people crowding the store. So entrepreneurs never leave any stone unturned in their efforts to make profit and to give the consumer what they want.
True. Although in fairness, when I used to live in New York, you could just take a 30-minute walk and smell pot from 30 people on a normal Tuesday night. So that's not any.
But here was a very vibrant and successful store on the day after legalization.
Well, I mean, I'm glad the pot stores are opened, but the thing is that in California during the lockdowns, weed stores were open, but gyms are closed. So, you know, I'm not anti-weed or anything. I'm just against our nation's priority putting weed against the gyms opening and other businesses opening. But other than that, power to people. Apple Siri had interesting woke news today. Apple Siri will stop defaulting to a female voice in America. You would have to choose the voice your Siri talks to you in once you set up your phone. And of course, Biden had $2 trillion infrastructure plan roll out today with corporate tax planned to go up to 28%. Bonds on those news were down just a little bit. And Bitcoin tried to test 60,000 again, but trading now around 58.5. So it failed for another day to cross over 60. Gold was up over 1% and oil was down 2% again. Victor, what else woke news have you heard today?
Oh, there was so much. It was so much. But in any case, fantastic decline at the close.
Yes.
Taking a tremendous, you would think that all the big funds, the top feeders have every incentive to keep the market up at the end of the month so that they can report good results for their holders. But they actually got the market down from 16 points. Now there was, anyway, very bullish, very bullish. This is the pause that refreshes before employment. Let's scare out as many of the weak holders as we can. I think it was very significant that Facebook canceled the Lara Trump interview of her father. Even mentioned him. And of course, very progressive and very bullish that San Diego teachers are going to, they are, and they're teaching the migrants, the migrants who came over and illegally, and they aren't, so there's in-person teaching for them, but not for anyone else in California. Oh yes, tremendous efforts to secure the Capitol still. A lot of barbed wire around, a lot of National Guard parading around, and compare that to the situation in Portland where the riots were truly revolutionary, but they weren't locked up, and in fact, the police were having a handoff response. And let's not, most of all, as it was a Harrison Bergerac day, because tremendous tax increases on individuals and corporations, and not only are the rates on capital gains and on corporate taxes going to be raised by, let's say, 50%, but now the corporations won't be able to take the benefit of foreign taxes if they're, for example, in China, where there's a 10% taxes, or in Russia, they have operations there now. Now they're going to have to pay the same tax rate, the same 28% on wherever they are. And you would think that for all corporations that would be very bad, because they're going to have less profits by, let's say, by 20%. If their taxes, if they were keeping 80%, and now they're going to keep 65%. So they've lost almost 20% of their profits that they can distribute to the public. You would think that would be very upsetting to them, and that corporations would protest against it. But no, there's that self-destructive speed, and it's very progressive. And the handicapper general says that there should be less money that you give to your stockholders. I guess most people are interested in what's going to happen, and the about the 9 or 10 employments that were most similar to this was very bullish. So everybody will have to hold on to their seatbelts if they want to take some risk as of Thursday's close. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a rise tomorrow also. Tremendous progressive news on the health front. Dr. Fauci, Dr. Cattle, excuse me, was warning about the risk of proliferation and the importance of not mitigating the efforts. A cost-benefit study came across where they estimated the costs, the other diseases that are haven't been treated, the suicides among
Right.
individuals. I have a nice quote on that, an article in the Journal of Frontiers in Public Health that was written by Ari Jaffe and appeared in the Wall Street Journal. And it's pretty unequivocal what he said. The lockdowns implemented in the name of public health entailed trade-offs that were not adequately considered. Lockdowns may prevent some COVID-19 deaths by flattening the curve, preventing stress. At the same time, lockdowns cause severe adverse effect for many millions of people, especially for the disadvantaged. The collateral damage includes severe losses to current and future well-being from unemployment, poverty, food insecurity, interrupted preventive, diagnostic, and therapeutic health care, interrupted education, loneliness and deterioration of mental health, and intimate partner violence. The economic recession has been framed as the economy versus saving lives from COVID, but this is a false dichotomy. The economic recession, through austerity and government spending, can be expected to cause far more loss of life and well-being over the long run than COVID. He notes one cost-benefit analysis that finds that lockdowns carry costs at least 5 to 10 times more in well-being years than COVID-19 can be. Anyway.
I totally agree. Just like I said, one issue alone, closing the gyms and oceans to walk on, to exercise, while 80% of hospitalizations are based on people obese. So people only got fatter during COVID, thus contributing to the issue.
Well, there are a lot more problems with
yes.
it than
education of children. You could go on and on. That's the reason lockdowns have never been tried before in history, especially for so long. This was never even considered before in history. The real question is, how did we get here? This was never planned for any pandemic. This was never tested at all.
Well, in any case, it was a typical day in the market. It went straight up until about 245. Was threatening to go to the round number of 4,000. Let's look at what happened this month. The S&P was up 2%. Nasdaq was up 2%. Germany was up 10%. By the way, here's a tip for our readers. They should pay a lot of attention to that last remark. That's all I'm going to say. The Nikkei was down about 1%. And how can we forget the tremendous, tremendous day in the grains? Everything was up, limit up. We have inflation galore. All the government bureaus are going to have to suppress the food again. For a while, I mean, grains were up tremendously during the year, maybe 50%, but they had fallen in the last month. Now they're back near their highs. And what was the reasoning for and these limit ups, by the way, are, as I mentioned, they're designed to prevent brokers from losing money. Gives them a chance to exert their financial and moral suasion, like they did on Huang. And, you know, unless you fork up some more money, if you happen to be short, we're gonna close you out. But when it's limit up, it's forecast to be limit. There'll be another tremendous rise, but anyway, it gives the brokers chances to exert financial pressure to get their money. But it really screws up the market. You can't trade during the day, and none of the numbers make sense. And but at least purported loss of the shorts is within the range, so that they could. It was 90 cents on the. It's almost 10%. Almost 10% on the 25 cents on corn. So there's a great day for the top feeders. And of course, most of all, bonds this month, with all their all the king's horses and all the king's men, they could only get bonds down 5 whole points. They started out the month at 160 and a 160 handle, and they closed at 154 and 3/4. So they only went down about 10% this month. So you had stocks up 2%, bonds down 5%, but very, very gradual decline. And as Irving Riddell said, you know, you have the frog and the lukewarm water, and you gradually heat it up, and he doesn't jump out. And the longs haven't been suffered. They're down from 180. You know, they had a 15% decline from the beginning of the year. But it hasn't been something like happened in soybeans, you know, where you have a decline that's earth-shattering, and that causes all the significant others to tell their partners, you know, you better get out of that, or else we're going to have a divorce. That used to happen on Fridays. There used to be big declines on Friday, and then all the significant others would tell their partners, you know, you better close your positions out, or else don't expect any romance in the future. And I can't take this. But anyway, the declines in bonds have been very smooth. Not enough to make anyone jump out. And mortgage rates are still quite low, and commercial space is tremendous tremendously in great supply. All the rents in the big cities are down for commercial space are down about 25%. By the way, one of the big indicators, long-term indicators of the stock market was pioneered by Henry George in the 1880s, and there were still schools of George schools, and anyway, his idea was that all big stock market declines have occurred following big declines in real estate, so that when you see a big decline in real estate, it's very bearish. But there hasn't been a big decline in real estate. Real estate prices are going through the roof.
Right. I think it's declining mostly in major cities because of the all unrest, high cost of living, and remote work. But outside of major cities, the prices are going up. So
in general, prices are going way up.
Right.
Okay, let's call it a day. Proverb of the day. I suggest you study your great victories a long time and then study your great defeats twice as long. You may well learn a great deal more from the latter. So anybody who's had a loss should study why they. And here's something about Tom's life. Life is a serious matter, but it still includes fun and games. During the 1929 Wall Street disaster and the long depression of the 30s, we still had time for checkers and chess. Even during World War II, I played in the veterans hospitals and I gave exhibitions at the UFC clubs. Yes, life is serious, but hobbies like chess and checkers make it livable. It's your move. Unfortunately, I haven't played checkers for a year now. I've been too busy transmitting my thoughts inspired by you to our customers and trading. The tennis tournaments in Florida only have 350,000 prize money, so none of the, and it's amazing, $350,000 isn't enough to cover the travel expenses of most of the players. They have to take planes, they have to feed themselves, they have to stay in hotels, they have to pay their, almost all the players now come with two or three handlers, coaches and trainers. But in checkers, what happened to Tom Wiswell? He used to go barnstorming around the country, and he'd talk at the YMCA's and the colleges and anywhere that. And I said, Tom, why did you stop? And he said, the bus fare was greater than the money that I was paid for my exhibition. And Alan Milhone, the president of the Checkers Association, he told me that they have one of the greatest prizes in history for a checker tournament, a total of $35,000 for the hundreds of players that are there. So, you know, they split that up into 2 or 3 divisions, and there are 5, let's say there are 5 prizes and $3,500 in prize money for a winner. Again, it's like Tom Wiswell, even at the height of its success, its financial success, you still can't make a living. And that, by the way, you can't make a living in the stock market. Remember, that Bet 365 takes 5.5% from every bet. And they give you a choice of hundreds and hundreds of bets. So their vig is 5.5%. And they're the most profitable, and they and their competitors are extremely great stock. Bet 365 isn't public, but the others are, and they're going through the roof. But they're all making the most profits in history. Bet 65 is the most profitable company in England. Its owner received the greatest salary of about $1 billion. But I'm just saying, 5.5% is enough to make all those companies extraordinarily profitable. The poor public, they pay a lot more than 5.5% in vig. If you're going for 2 or 3 points, you're trying to day trade, you take account of the bid ask, you take account of the commissions, the bad fills, the high frequency traders. Anyway, I want to close by saying that everybody should listen to Larry Williams' interview. It was a great interview. You could learn enough for a meal for a lifetime. It's not just a meal for a day. He's very good with the meals for a day, but that will give you a meal for a lifetime. Somebody asked me, how come I didn't engage him on his 25 or 30 indicators, and what do I think of Bollinger Bands and everything. I'm sure Larry has figured out a way to make money with this for all his students. But if you concentrate on the buys from the Bollinger Bands, you'll make a lot of money. Okay, see you tomorrow. Thanks for inspiring me.
Thank you, Victor, for all your interesting tips. And
I don't know if they're valid or not.
We'll let our viewers to test those tips.
Oh, well, we've had a very lucky run. Of course, when the stock market's up 7% and you're bullish every day except the 2 Fed days where we had the greatest decline, I mean, you're with the weather gauge. So we've been very lucky, and the luck will probably turn. Okay, thank you very much.